Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 242. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with pucksandpitchforks.com editor-in-chief Nick Villano. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios in North Jersey. Inside the bunker in an undisclosed location, and Nick Villano in an undisclosed location, real bunker, in West Virginia. He's in coal country. Nick, how are you, man?
See, this is what happens when you want to be like Brett Favre, right? You want to keep your streak alive by any means necessary. So you'll go out there and you'll limp for the New York Jets and, play themselves out of the playoffs because you want to keep the streak alive. And here's the thing, Sam, we want to be here for our fans every single week. We want to be able to say we've been here every single week. And do you know what that means, Sam? It means whether I'm in West Virginia, whether I'm in Florida, wherever I'm at, barring, my son needing me to do something, we're on here every Wednesday, no matter what. So we've traveled to West Virginia for the holidays and Christmas and, whatever else they celebrate around here. And yeah, and apparently I got kidnapped along the way, and this is my hostage video. So,
Yes. Yeah.
It'd be nice.
And Ted says State of the Fan is concerned. Because a lot of people are concerned. Why are they concerned? Because it's the Devils' home ice disadvantage. They can't win at home. They can't beat teams that they should be beating at home. And it's been a disadvantage. Sloppy play, turnovers, let's just say, I would say lazy plays, and the hockey IQ goes down 30 points when they're at home. And we got a super chat from Nintendo Wii. If there is one talking point I'm sick of hearing, the Devils miss Andrew Brunette.
I'm actually going to write about that. Thank you for bringing that up and just setting me up. Because you know what? They don't. This isn't an Andrew Brunette problem. Andrew Brunette was in charge of the power play and the offense. That was his main goal, his main focus. The power play is like worlds better. The offense could use Brunette. I'll give you that, but it's not the reason why they're losing. The reason why they're losing is defense and goaltending. So I just want to kind of go into that. I'm going to write an article about that this week. I can't tell you exactly what day it is because, family time and stuff like that, but that is going up this week. I'm hoping it goes up Friday. That's going to be my goal. Let tomorrow kind of whatever, see if there's any storylines coming out tomorrow, but also write this one about we don't miss Brunette. It is what it is. I liked Brunette. I thought Brunette was an easy replacement for Ruff. If Ruff decided to retire, go to the front office, yada, yada, yada. I thought that would be a good deal to make to have Brunette take over, and I thought he'd be a good head coach. I still think he's going to be a good head coach, but Brunette is not – we don't miss Brunette. So that's that. I need to throw that out.
Yeah, well, thank you for the super chat, Nintendo Wii. Also, Timo Meier, obviously he's not himself. He's still playing. Kevin Ball, the defense.
Can we talk about the Meier thing for a second? I know you wanted to talk about home ice disadvantage. I'm looking up a stat real quick just to kind of see what that is. But I want to talk about Timo Meier because he's been getting all of the hate. And I wrote probably a month and a half ago about why he doesn't deserve the hate. But what I will say is they said he's still hurt. And he's playing slower because he's still hurt. The reason you got Timo Meier instead of, some of the other players that they're going after is because his speed matched the size and the grit that this team needed. So he could play with Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier on offense, but still play decently in defense. Meier is still playing well on defense, actually. His defensive metrics are good to very good. His offensive metrics are the worst on the team over the last, 5, 6, 7 games. and it's sad because you're putting him with Alexander Holtz and Dawson Mercer, who aren't in a place in their career where they can lift him up. They're both playing very well this season, Mercer and Holtz, but they have an anchor on their line. Do you know what I would do, Sam?
What would you do?
I would sit. Well, first I would sit him, but if that's not an option, right? There's pressure from other places. You might not want him to have to deal with that. But what I would do is I'd put him with McLeod and Bastian. McLeod and Bastian have been doing it with whoever's been on their line, and I think that the speed isn't so much a part of it because Bastian isn't very fast, if not fast at all. I know Bastian is kind of a contentious player because he's had kind of an up and down season, to say it best. But that's what I would do. Put him on that fourth line. It's not even a fourth line because they play it a lot, right? Mm-hmm. He's already playing well defensively, so he could build up his confidence. And, McLeod has scored in the past 2 games, so his offense is going up. I have one of my in-laws' cats here is trying to be a guest on the podcast as well. I don't know if that's coming through on the microphone, but it's meowing pretty loud. But that's my thoughts on Timo Meier.
Yeah, I'm giving the guy a break. If he's playing hurt, he's trying to do his best to get back and help his team. At the same time, I think it'd be wiser, in my opinion, to have him sit out and just heal faster. And not
heal.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing? Stop talking about the contract. Stop talking that this is a bust of a contract. The Devils lost the trade. This contract is started. People are talking about trading him. People are talking about sending trade him for Gibson straight up. Get out. This is the ramifications of trading Timo Meier when you're into an 8-year deal. Nobody would sign here ever again. Ever. Palat would have never signed here. Dougie Hamilton would have never signed here, and I'm assuming some people in the out there are going to be like, well, good riddance. No, you need people to want to come here because you also will have people who want to stay, like Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt and Nico Hischier. You have to make sure that you're making large scale moves, and signing Timo Meier and showing that the guy like that is willing to take a slight pay cut to stay here for 8 years is huge. When you put that together with Jack Hughes doing the same thing and Jesper Bratt doing the same thing. So I think we need to chill with how we're talking about his contract. I have a number that might be interesting for you, though, if you want to go back to the home ice disadvantage.
Sure.
So the Devils played much better down the stretch, but did you know that they were better on the road last year, too?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
What?
We knew that they were a great road team, and they broke records, at least franchise records.
Oh, yeah, of course. So there's just something about the home away splits for this team. Some people talk about being on the road builds chemistry. We saw that a little. For the first time all season, it looked like the Devils had chemistry on that Western Conference road trip where they played, Edmonton, Vancouver, Seattle, and the Flames. They finally had a rhythm, and it was working for them. And the Devils have kept that for the most part. I haven't seen a chemistry issue in especially the past 2 losses. The loss against the Ducks. Did you see my article that I wrote about the back-to-backs?
No, I did not.
Okay, so I wrote that I dove deep into what's wrong with the back-to-backs. And on the second half of back-to-backs, Sam, they are 1-5-1. They are 15-7-1 when it's not the second half of a back-to-back. It's either the first half of a back-to-back or just a standalone game. 15-7-1. That win percentage, Sam, is better than the Rangers. At least it was. I don't know if the Rangers won since I wrote that article, or how the overtime point maybe it brought it down. But it's if not tied, it is better than the Rangers, the team that's first in the Metropolitan Division. The second half of the back-to-back is tanking this team's season. Here's why that's an issue, Sam. They have 9 more back-to-backs on the schedule. They have 16 total on the season. That's more than anybody else. Here's why I'm not as concerned. This team just has to make the playoffs. This team is so good that they just have to get in. This team is built like the Panthers were last year. A lot of changes to a really good team, but arguably changes for the better in the long run. You know, Kachuk replacing Huberdeau and Uyghur, and then adding pieces. It takes time to build that chemistry. It takes time to kind of get into the groove, and that's the same thing when you take out Damon Severson and Ryan Graves, and you put in Luke Hughes, Kevin Ball, and Simone Nemitz. Same thing for the offense. You know, you're trying to it's a lot of the same pieces, but Curtis Lazar is like an everyday player. He wasn't that last year. You got Toffoli, who's been a little cold lately. He's still playing well, if you ask me, but he's not on this stupendous run that he was on. I think that what you're looking at here with the New Jersey Devils is this is exactly I hate saying this because there were a lot of pre-season articles, and people are going to hate hearing this, Sam. So just get ready for the handmail. I don't think we're going to get super chats after this one, but this is always what it was going to be. The only difference, Sam, is how bad the goaltending is. You just couldn't predict that much of a drop-off from last year to this year. Like, that is just overnight stuff. What's his name? Vitek Vanacek, so far in his head, he can't get out, although he's played really well the past 2 games. Schmid, stop playing him in the second half of back-to-back. Avoid it at all costs. You know what I wanted them to do, Sam? And this is insane. But when Vanacek was too sick to play, I wanted them to call Kincaid. Don't call up Dawes. Dawes just came off hip surgery. Sam, you lost anyway, and you played terrible. Why not throw a guy in there who's desperate to show that he can still sum up anything to still be in the NHL? Unless Kincaid is playing hurt too.
You know what? If you want to subscribe to my conspiracy theory, I think Vanacek, and this is my conspiracy theory, I think Vanacek was in a lose-lose situation to even play that game. Reason being, all the trade rumors, John Gibson being on the other side, and you got to think of the mindset before the game. We knew what happened with John Gibson during the game now, but before the game, and I think mentally speaking, Vanacek, he had nothing to gain out of that game. He really didn't have anything to gain. It was too much risk. So why play it?
The entire thing is very, I don't want to call it sketchy because it's got a negative connotation, but it's there's a lot of unknown there, right? He just wasn't feeling right. Wasn't really sick, wasn't really injured, but wasn't feeling right. Is that a mental thing? Is that, there's a lot of color that I need to fill in between that. Even with the Devils not giving updates ever on injuries, this is still just different, than we usually see. But I don't know.
Miraculously, he was able to play against the Flyers last night. So, and I thought to myself, and do I blame him if my conspiracy theory is right? No, because I'd say no. I'm not playing this guy or this team or whatever. That's what that's my mindset in it.
Yeah, and
especially with the bad defense. Everything falls upon the goalie. And you know what? If the Ducks, I mean, they put up 5 goals. The Ducks put up 5 goals, against the Devils. So, or did if I was the goalie, and you know what the energy level is in the room, if the guys are going to take you just know if the guys are amped up for the game or not, and maybe he's just look, I'm in a lose-lose situation, and my guys aren't ready because the second half of the back-to-back. Something's just not right about that whole thing, out of nowhere.
Yeah. Especially after that Boston game, where he played so well in Boston. Won them the game in Boston. We haven't spoken since see. This is the funny thing about doing this once a week, is that there's so many emotions with this season, and Sam, like, I don't want to rag on our fan base, but like, can we stop living and dying with every game? I do it as like a Twitter experiment, like as a Twitter personality, just because it's like fun to like interact with people that way, to like be high and low. But like legit, like if the Devils lose, like all of these people come out of the woodwork to say we're terrible, and they're fans, they're Devils fans. If the Devils win, all these people come out of the woodwork to say we're back, we're winning the cup. Like, and then the other sides say nothing for the other experience. I just don't. Our fan base is so volatile this year. Like, we just need to have some patience. We need to kind of let some things play out. Do I want a goalie? I absolutely want a goalie now. I think they just need to make the move. But you have to know the inherent risks in the moves that are available. The moves are, Gibson is the obvious one. 6 teams need goalies minimum. Probably 11, but 6 teams really need a goalie. You got Hurricanes, you got the Maple Leafs. There's a couple of teams that are fighting for playoff spots that really. Oh, Ottawa, but like, I don't know if they're technically still in it. There's a couple of teams basically really in need for a goalie. I don't know if that's going to drive the price up for Gibson to a place that's going to make you uncomfortable. The rumor that was going around, and I'm going to tell you it's not true, so I'm just going to let you know before I say that, but this is the rumor, was Holtz, Seamus Casey, and a first-round pick. The Devils are not and will not offer that. That's not going to be
That's insane.
Right. That is an A-plus prospect, a 7th overall pick that is playing well in the NHL, and a first-round pick.
Why don't you add in Jack Hughes as well to it?
And, Sam, and here's the thing. Here's the kicker to that. If you make it to the Eastern Conference Final, that's this year's first-round pick going to the Sharks, and then you gave up next year's first-round pick. So it's basically 2 first-round picks if you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's what you need to pay. Vinny Parisi put up some John Gibson trade proposals. Personally, I thought they were a little low. I do think you're going to have to give up one really good to premium asset in this deal. But when I look at premium assets, I think you can consider like Arseny Gritsik, the Russian sniper, a premium asset. The Devils just happen to have a lot of premium assets. But like the people saying, I've seen people say trade Mercer for Gibson. That's how bad you need a goalie. No, that's a terrible move. And Gibson is such an inherent risk with that contract, with what he's done for 5 years. It's not like he was just bad last year. He's been bad for 5 years. And I do think that it's because he's been on a terrible team. I think we saw Sunday, what he can be for this team. I do, and then Sam, I do think that was an audition. I think he was like, "Let me show you what I can do, and then let my wife go and have this baby." And congrats to him. Do I hope Gibson is a Devil? I think I'm leaning towards yes. I think he's got 3 years left in this contract. It's not the worst contract in the world like Hellebuck's is right now. It's not this contract will sink your season. This contract will sink your contention window. It is like if you really think about it, Sam, like say the Devils get Gibson and he's awful and then have to pay $5 million for another goalie. Paying $11 million to your goaltender is not ideal, but it's not like teams do it. Right, the Panthers are doing it, and they went to the Stanley Cup final last year. The Lightning have done it, and they've won back-to-back cups. It is not a death knell to pay your goaltending room $10 to $11 million. It's not ideal, but it's not a death knell. And you still think like Akira Schmid and Nico Dawes, one of them is going to at least be a quality backup, right? Like we haven't given up on these guys completely to at least be NHL caliber players, have we? I get the Dawes injury, like, will give you a pause, but one of the two has to work out, I would think.
It's
not even to be a starter. I'm talking about a backup. Do you think one of them could be a backup? You're even on the fence about backup.
There's just not much of a sample size. I think Dawes has potential, but that was before his injury. You know, you worry about that. Brennan, I haven't really followed.
He got demoted to the ECHL, so I kind of lost some hope in there. But maybe, I mean, Blackwood got demoted too, and he made it to.
I just hope Jeremy Brodeur rips it up and then somehow gets the call.
Sam,
he's going to be the Tommy DeVito of the New Jersey Devils.
Can I ask you a quick thing about Tommy DeVito? Because I'm very curious about your thoughts.
What's that?
Have you heard the controversy with DeVito this week?
Yes.
Okay. I'll sum it up real quick. There's a pizza place came out and to the Tommy DeVito had agreed to make an appearance for $10,000, and they advertised the appearance. His agent came out and said, so in the post that they said that Tommy DeVito's agent called them back and said he isn't showing up unless they double the fee. The agent came out and said, we never signed a contract. But DeVito ended up going to the pizza place anyway, and I think he learned how to make soda or something. What are your thoughts just now that this entire situation's wrapped up in a bow? How do you feel about the situation?
I honestly think in that situation that Tommy DeVito probably called his agent, is like, what the heck is going on here? Because a lot of times the players are not. What's that?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think the agent overplayed his hand.
And I read extensively on this, and the pizzeria, which is located in my old stomping grounds, Morristown, New Jersey, basically said, okay, Tommy, you can come, but don't bring the agent. Tommy DeVito comes with a new marketing team. So basically, he took his agent off of that. He's still negotiating contracts like a normal agent would. So he basically took charge of the situation, very mature decision, and went to the pizzeria to make amends. And what's coming out of it is he will be making another appearance where it's for charity and donating sandwiches and food to the needy. I think, you know what, again, an agent's going to do what agents do. They do all the dirty work. I didn't like how the agent, I don't think there's any misunderstanding here. I think, you're talking, I'm just going to make an assumption that you're talking old school Italian. You don't need a contract. Your word is your word. And then when you flip like that from 10 to 20,000, I honestly think that this is a small business here. This is not like dealing with the New York Football Giants in terms of negotiating.
Yeah, he wasn't going to Domino's.
Yeah, pretty much.
Also, a verbal contract is legally binding in the state of New Jersey. So, not that I think that business would go to that, but.
Oh, I didn't know that. Maybe I should tell Beer Baron that he's not getting any free Ann Crew brews then.
Listen, yeah, I was just curious of your thoughts. But yeah, it sounds like it's a happy ending. It sounds like you said, DeVito took care of the situation. Because again, it more likely than not, this is a 15 minutes of fame, and you want to do the most with it as you possibly can. And I understand you'd want to cash out on it if you're Tommy DeVito. He's a New Jersey guy. He's Don Bosco prep. He's, he did he go to Rutgers? Am I remember that correctly?
No, he went to Syracuse and then he went to Illinois.
Oh, that's right, Illinois.
And he played well against Penn State, I believe, in the COVID season, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so yeah, but he's a Don Bosco prep guy, which for those who don't know is probably the powerhouse football school in New Jersey. So again, it's a good story, but back to Devils hockey and
I want your thoughts. I want your thoughts on this because I'm glad Codex in the YouTube Live brought up. Don't break up the PB&J line. What are your thoughts on Devils marketing? I'm assuming they're involved. Selling peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Levy's restaurants. Levy's that is the new concession people. At $7.95.
Yeah, I wish you got a little bit more than just like.
Can you imagine the margins on that?
I mean, the margins on everything in the stadium, in any stadium. What was the famous stadium? Was it? I think it was Atlanta, right? Atlanta was famous because they made all the meals like
super cheap,
decently priced.
Yeah,
and I think the Masters. So it must be a Georgia thing. They have they're famous for how cheap the food is, but everywhere else, what's a hot dog now? Isn't a hot dog like $11?
Oh, I don't know.
Like a chicken fingers and fries is $18.
The only hot dogs I eat is from Costco, just because it's $1.50 in tax.
With the soda.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, chicken fingers and fries going for whatever it costs, $14. Like chicken fingers and fries, Sam, on margin is probably 80 cents. Like realistically, that's how much it costs to buy it in bulk. For 5 chicken fingers and a handful of fries is probably 88 cents to $1.75.
I mean, if you think about it, ice rinks are expensive. Like if you think about a normal ice rink, like Twin Oaks, where Bruce Driver owns, or any ice rink, you break even on the ice time. Even though ice time is very expensive, you break even there if you can fill those time slots. Where you make your real money is the concessions. That's where the margins are.
So when I worked at Applebee's, and we're getting completely off the rails, but that's fine. When I worked at Applebee's, they taught us the margins of everything. And where we made our most money was alcohol and soda. You just wanted to make sure that nobody's got a water at your table. Everything we were taught to upsell was a drink. It was a cherry limeade. It was whatever. Do you know how much a cup of soda? This was 10 years ago, so obviously the things have gone up, but not much. Do you know how much a cup of soda cost?
A half a cent.
Around there. I think it was 80% of a cent.
Yeah.
80% of a cent. Less than 1 penny for a soda, and it cost you $3.
Oh, Michael Descala, Super Chats, $2 for the cost of a homemade PB&J.
Appreciate that. See, we're going to go poor if we keep going to these games.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. That's very interesting about the margins in there. I mean, I envy Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment. I actually envy their the amount of money that they make. I always look at that stuff. I'm like, PB&J.
Well, I mean, think about it, Sam. There was that controversy about 10 years ago where the Astros paid their players nothing. The stadium was always empty, but they were always the highest in profits, like total profits, not even profit share.
Yeah.
They had the most total profits because, they don't. You don't need if you're not spending a lot on the product, you don't need to make a lot to have the highest profit.
Yeah, but how does that work with Ohtani? Backloading his deal. How does that get taxed?
I mean, businessmen will always make it a future me problem.
Yeah.
They will prioritize current profits because, Sam, guess what they're going to do? If the Dodgers make $600 million in profit this year, I'm just making that between jersey sales and ticket sales and everything going up. And then the value of that asset, Sam, is going to go through the roof, which it already has. So if you defer that contract, all you got to do is call an investor, be like, well, now my investment, it was worth, I don't know, what are the Dodgers worth? Like $4 billion, something
4 or
like
5
that.
billion? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say it's $5 billion. So right now it's $5 billion, but they have a good year, six, seven, eight, $900 million profit. Now it's $7 billion. They have another good year, 4, 5, 6, 7, $800 million. Now the valuation goes up another $1 billion. And now you call one of your friends and say you want 4% of the Dodgers. It's going to cost them 80, 90, $100 million. So boom, that's 2 years of Ohtani's contract.
Yeah.
So there's a long-term plan here. That's the exact reason why Josh Harris has bought the teams that he's bought. Right? He went on the Sixers at the lowest possible point percentage-wise where you could buy the Sixers. And that asset I think that his asset is quintupled. It might even be more than that.
Oh, no. It's he bought it for what, 75, 85 million? So it's at $1 billion now.
No, it was in triple digits, but it was like 230 million or something like that.
No.
The Sixers?
I'm looking this up right now. But
I'll jump to the Devils. He bought the Devils for I think 340. What 300?
Yeah, basically wipe out the debt.
Yeah, basically that's what he did, right? He took on the debt of James Vanderbeek and Jeff Vanderbeek, sorry, and now the Devils are worth close to $1 billion.
Oh, you're right.
And
290 million.
Itself.
290 million. You bought it in 2011. Yeah. My bad.
I was gonna say, I've written about this a couple times, so I think
I'm thinking of Mark Cuban probably. I'm thinking what Mark Cuban bought the Mavericks.
Nothing for those Mavericks.
Yeah,
he just sold them, right? He was just a partner there. That's he made a mint. But then Harris comes in, and he sees that and him and Blitzer have done this a couple other times. Blitzer has bought in on the Cleveland Indians, and Harris has bought in on. There was somebody else besides Washington. They bought in a minor league baseball team. I think they own the Delaware Blue Hens. Crystal Palace. That's right.
But
I think that was like one mistake. I don't think they made as much on Crystal Palace. I might be wrong, but I know they were kind of being pushed.
But here's the problem: none of these teams win, and that's my problem.
Yeah.
They simply don't win. I mean, Joshua Harris almost bought the Mets, and I would have quit watching sports at that point.
Here's the thing about I feel like the Sixers make the right moves. They hired Doc Rivers. They hired Daryl Morey. They have the MVP on the team.
Yeah, but I could bring up some dirty laundry if you really want me to be nasty, but I'd rather not.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. But when it comes to like the Devils owners, like when it's time to make the moves, they make the moves. It seems like they're patient. Here's the problem with patience, Sam. And we've seen this with the Sixers, and we see this with this fan base. Is that when you ask them, when you ask a fan base to be patient for 4 years, 5 years, that means that you have to deliver. Like there's no more patience with the fan base when you ask them to be miserable for 4 years watching your product and still paying for it. And then you raise the prices when it's good. The patience is gone. Now you have to deliver, and that puts a certain pressure on ownership. Josh Harris loved it coming out on the red carpet last year for the playoffs because everybody was fat and happy. We're playing the Rangers. We're in the playoffs. Everything looks good. We look great. Everything made sense. We have a star in Jack Hughes. We have a Selke finalist in Nico Hischier. Everything's fantastic. I don't think you're going to be seeing much of Josh Harris this year unless they make this run of the playoffs. And
well, I think David Blitzer's running the team.
You have to deliver them.
David Blitzer's running the team. Joshua Harris, his heart and mind is with Washington right now. He accomplished his ultimate. That was his ultimate goal, is to have an NFL team. But he started small. He started small with
We
the
owned
Sixers.
part of the Steelers, like a very small part for a little while.
Yeah, but that's just symbolic.
Yeah, it's just asset
It's
management at that
it's
point.
just to get into the good old boys club in the NFL.
Yeah, probably. But here, let's finish on some Devils talk before, because we're on borrowed time here with this West Virginia internet service. So you play a desperate Edmonton team tomorrow, who's, I think after winning 8 in a row, I think they've lost 3 straight, and they're really far back in the standings. But they're a team that beat you pretty mercifully 2 weeks ago. But again, that was on the second half of a back-to-back. So would you consider this a must-win, just to get back on track and kind of like slow down the noise?
I think the next 2 games are must-win, because I'm going to tell you, I'll be there Saturday against the Red Wings. If they lose both games, the Oilers and the Red Wings in regulation, there's going to be a lot of pissed off fans.
I'm gonna end on this. And I'll probably write about this in the coming weeks. I have some time because they don't have any such games this week, but there hasn't been a ton of Metro games for the Devils this year. You had one against the Islanders, one against the Rangers. I don't think you haven't played the Hurricanes yet. I think you have 1 or 2 against the Penguins. It was just the one, right? Just the one against the Penguins. 1 or 2 against the Capitals. You're and then the 2 against the Flyers. There's a lot of Metropolitan games where you can make up standings on your own. You have a lot of control over your destiny. So that is where you can have hope, because if the Devils do figure it out, and granted, that's a big if. You have to figure it out first. But if the Devils do figure it out later in the season, which is what I'm pitching, that with Luke Hughes and some Simon Nemeth and all these young players, all these new pieces, the injuries, everybody has to get healthy. If all that happens, and the goaltending is at least league average, you got all these Metropolitan games where you could steal 2 points every single night. The problem is, the Capitals play the Hurricanes, it goes to overtime. You can't have that. Can't happen.
Yeah.
The
3-point games.
Somebody played I think the Hurricanes played the Knights last night and won. That you can't, that is going to make it a lot harder for you. And the Capitals, when you need every in division game to end in regulation, and you need every out of division game to be won by the other team. Now that's not always going to happen, but you need a little help, and they haven't been getting any help lately. Like, the standings just keep getting harder and harder because everybody's getting loser points, and they're beating the teams that are out of the division. So, the Devils do have some control, but you still gotta. These people are telling me I'm crazy for looking at the standings already, but I'm not. It's too close, and it's going to stay this close for a long time.
Yeah. Well, just like what you said in the beginning of the podcast, Nick, just get in the playoffs. Figure it out. But once you're in the playoffs, it's clean slate.
Card seed, you could beat the Bruins, you could beat the Rangers on your best day. So just make it your best day and go on a run.
Yeah, and I hope the Devils they start to enjoy that $9 million cap space that could be come in handy down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, they have no need to put them on LTIR until they find somebody, because right now because you stop accumulating cap space in the way that you do when you're cap compliant than when you are under the LTIR. So that's why they haven't done it yet. But if the move makes sense, it makes a Gibson move a lot easier. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely does. Definitely does. Well, Nick, final thoughts?
No, can I plug?
Yeah, absolutely.
pucksandpitchforks.com. We have a lot of really good articles right now. Dan Rice spoke to Fabian Zetterlund from the San Jose Sharks. Just kind of seeing like what his life is like in his new arena. We have 2 articles on Adam Henrique after his big night with the Ducks, scoring his first career hat trick. I wrote an article on. I've been writing so much for the front page, but we have articles from Trey Matthews, we have articles from John Bailey, we have articles from Vinny Parisi, we have articles from Sam, not you, Sam, the other Sam. Jersey Joe has written articles. We've got articles coming out the wazoo right now. So go to pucksandpitchforks.com, and I just wrote one for fansided.com, Sam, about the history of the penalty box.
Oh.
I'm sure you knew this, but do you know what caused the NHL to stop putting everybody in the same penalty box?
Oh, because they were fighting?
There was a physical fight between a guy from Montreal and a guy from it wasn't Toronto, but it was a rivalry game, and they put them in the same penalty box, and they just beat the you-know-what out of each other in the penalty box. And then the NHL came out, I don't know if it was the next day, but it was very recently after that, and said, we need separate penalty boxes. And that was back in the 60s, 70s, somewhere in that range. I just wrote it. My brain's a little fried because I just drove to West Virginia today. But that's all I got for you, Sam.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's on fansided.com. I also have a bunch of football stuff for the people who love football.
Great. Well, tomorrow, Beer Baron will be at American Whiskey for Game Day Live, and I'll be at American Whiskey for Saturday, Game Day Live and Devils After Dark. Saturday's podcast, we're going to be airing our grievances. We're going to bring the poll. And, Vinny Parisi will have a recorded message of his grievances. Shorts Guy and I will be at American Whiskey. We're going to be drinking and Crew Brew. You know how these games before Christmas, before the Christmas stoppage, is they are holly jolly, worth of fun. Can't wait.
They're saucy, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, also, before we go, did you see that video on Instagram of that Devils fan throwing up and spitting chiclets? Put that out.
Yeah, it's not great.
You know what?
He looks really young.
Yeah. Well, whatever came up was red. Hopefully, it wasn't the Anchor Brew. If you look
I just feel bad for the girl that he almost or maybe possibly threw
Actually, you know what? I just missed it because that happened, I believe, in section 208. And I was actually in that section for about 15, 20 minutes, and then I left. Because Ted was...
You're seriously, are you just the mayor of the Prudential Center just bouncing around town and shaking hands and kissing babies?
I'm telling you right now, because of the podcast, Nick, it's wild. I can enter the Prudential Center, and I get stopped constantly for pictures, talking to fans, all that, and, it happens. And then I ran into Bryce Salvador as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how he just runs across the arena before he gets.
I know, he's a wild man.
If you ever watch, it's beautiful because it's like watching a gazelle just gracefully running in a suit. And, yeah. Anyway, thank you all those tuning in, dropping the podcast at midnight. Thank you to you, Nick. Enjoy your trip in West Virginia. We'll be back tomorrow. Live from American Whiskey. Till next time, let's go Devils.